Hello, this is a presentation on the Metadata Scheme Dublin Core for Info 181 with Professor Bolin. First, let's talk about metadata. So what is metadata? Metadata is the descriptive information about data. Think of it like the information about something. Everything has data associated with it, and metadata is the details of that information. Let's take a person, for example. I have data about myself that I use when I order from a place like Amazon. Amazon has my name, address, and purchasing history, which is my metadata in their records. There are many different types of metadata for librarians. The first thing that comes to mind is books. Libraries have been using a type of metadata for a while through their MARC records because of their use in the card catalog. But there are many other things that can have data, not only items like books or movies, but it can be a desk, a car, or many other objects. If you can assign things like title, author, creator, and other information like this, it can contain metadata. As in my example, not only do physical items have this type of data, but digital objects also have metadata associated with it. For many systems, this data is stored in a standardized way, which helps them to collect and organize the information they need. This helps the data to function for whatever use they need it to. There are various metadata schemes that are out there. Today we will discuss a very common and basic scheme, which is Dublin Core. Dublin Core includes metadata elements and helps to describe important information through resource description. The name derives from the Online Computer Library Center, or OCLC, which has its headquarters located in Dublin, Ohio. This metadata element originated at a conference that was held in 1995 in Dublin. This went on to be widely used. It was created to help to create, share, and organize records using a shared standard for both physical and digital items. Dublin Core also conforms to RDF, which is a widely used standard and functions in a similar way like MARC and AACR2, which are used in libraries. The Dublin Core has three related information models. They are resource, description, and vocabulary. If you take a book such as The Great Gatsby, which is the resource, this is described through the author and or creator. So F. Scott Fitzgerald is a part of the resource that describes a relationship with this item, which he is the author of this book. For the description of this item, it would be the title, which is The Great Gatsby. The vocabulary model includes controlled vocabularies that are used to help the standards in these descriptions. An example of this would be using Library of Congress subject headings for this title. Dublin Core has a standard set of information that once established has been used and can grow. A simple standard may have been implemented, but this system has room and allows each of those elements to create more complex areas. Simple Dublin Core includes 15 elements, which are familiar to libraries. These descriptive elements include creator, title, publisher, and so on. There are other areas that are also referred to as facets. These are format, type, and language. Dublin Core also allows for objects to be linked to expand on the understanding. This includes source, identifier, or element relation. And finally, we have rights metadata, which discusses access, ownership, and copyright of an item. In this graphic, you see the elements here, and you see they branch off from the item itself. Each item could have a title, contributor, description, and so on. You see that each of these includes an area that begins with DC colon, and then either source, language, identifier, and so on. Dublin Core can be adapted to help to express its descriptions and relationships with other things. The metadata of an object can include basic things that set standards, which helps make it work. But Dublin Core can move beyond these basic standards to create more depth and detail. One example of this is allowing both a personal name or a corporate name for the creator field of an item. Adding more layers of depth of the information can be expanded and helps the metadata to become more rich and provides the most information. Each individual system will use this for their purposes and can focus specifically on what they need. Dublin Core allows many schemes so that this information can be read by people as well as machines. RDF and XML work together to express the valuable information that needs to be shared with whatever application is used for this data. The website, Guidance on Expressing the Dublin Core, has some good information that gives details about the Resource Description Framework, or RDF, and Extensible Markup Language, or XML. This site notes, the basic premise behind RDF is a simple one, that an identifiable, addressable resource may be described by means of a selection of properties, size, name, maker, etc., each of which has an associated value. In certain cases, the statement of a property may in itself form a further resource, allowing the model to grow potentially infinitely by linking information resources together. As stated above, XML provides the default syntax used to encode RDF descriptions, and numerous examples of this may be seen. At times, it can aid clarity to express RDF descriptions in a diagrammatic form, allowing the distinction between resources, properties, and values to become clear. So let's take a look at a MARC record and a Dublin record using this book, How to STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Education in Libraries, which is edited by Vera Gubnitskia and Carol Smallwood. This is the example of a MARC record for the book How to STEM, and you see the basic information here on this record. The main information towards the top, you'll see in the 245 field, which is the title field, with information also on who edited this book. The 264 field provides the publisher name, location, and year. This record includes much more information, but this is just the basic information in the top part of the record. As most MARC records, they can be very basic or much more detailed if you prefer. This is an example of a Dublin Core record. You see some of the information is similar. However, the beginning of each line starts with DC colon. The first line, we have DC colon title with the title inside of angle brackets on each side. Then we have the creator field, subject, publisher, date, type, and format, which are all similar to the previous record. While this record is different, you can see there are many similarities in the MARC record and in how the information is added. These two records for this book were both found online. The MARC record was retrieved from the library view on a record from the San Jose State University King Library. The Dublin Core is from the information that was manually input on the Dublin Core generator that was provided in the lecture from week 2. So this information may be incomplete, but does show the similarities in how the record can be created. The Dublin Core record that was created using the generator was set to provide the output as XML which is the format that was generated. There are many resources out there that can help with the different elements and fields of Dublin Core. The Dublin Core Metadata Initiative has a lot of examples and background on their website regarding Dublin Core. Here is some information on the 15 elements that is found on their site, which shares some generic examples using Dublin Core. To begin on this example, we have a title. Here you see the different variations that have been added that relate to the title. We have Sound of Music, Green on Greens, etc. In the author creator field, we see people with the last name, then the first name, also first and last. We see corporations, government entities, even fan clubs. In the subject and keyword, we have examples of dogs and Olympic skiing. This shows the many different areas you can add here in this field for anything related to this item. The description here is longer and includes a full sentence in this example and shares the information with a description of this book. We then have 3 publishers and a place for the other contributor. Next, we have 3 variations of the date. 1 with year, month, day. Next, just year and month. And finally, just year. The next section is resource type, and we see image, sound, and text here, which will be depending on what you're using. Next is format, with a file name such as JPEG, or image size, or a description of the physical item with the specific dimensions. The next section has resource identifier, which can be an ISBN number or a publisher number. And finally, on this slide, we see source, with this example including a call number. This last slide of examples first talks about language, with the example of a simple EN for English, or the whole word English, and so on, with some having more detail. Relation discusses related items and titles. Coverage is the years it covered and area it covered, such as the 17th century in upstate New York, as the example shows. And finally, we have rights management, which notes that access is limited to members. These 15 elements provided with generic examples show that there can be basic information included and also detailed information depending on what is available and what the purpose is. We see many examples without structure, and any format can be used, meaning there is not a uniform way for each section. We also see some sections that have fields that are repeatable, and we also have some fields that have no information or data, which is fine. This makes Dublin Core flexible and able to be managed in various ways. Metadata is an interesting topic because, while complex, it is familiar to librarians because it is based on known data in systems like MARC, which are common in libraries. Metadata is a step up in its previous technology in how it functions and shares with other systems. While each can function in the way it needs to, it is also based on basic standards that have been implemented since its inception. Using these basic elements have helped to set a standard for metadata and Dublin Core so that they can be widely used and grow with many systems, while also allowing for growth and to expand to be used with various systems and functions. This discussion is only providing a very basic overview on metadata and Dublin Core because this topic can be very complex and technical. As this word cloud shows some very basic terms, but these could branch off in many different ways to include much more data and information. One thing to keep in mind is that while new systems come into play, like MARC, you will find new technology rooted in some of these same principles of Dublin Core. So while these areas might grow and expand, they also have known standards. Thanks for watching this presentation on metadata and Dublin Core.